Good evening, everyone. I will now call the meeting of Committee of Adjustment for the County of Brant on May 18th, 2023, and start it. So good evening, members of the committee, applicants, agents, staff, and members of the public. As this meeting is also being held virtually, I will remind you that meeting is being recorded and streamed live via the County of Brant YouTube account. Committee of Adjustment members joining online, which isn't the case tonight, so I will pass over that. Planning staff will be requested to join the meeting during presentations and will be available to answer questions. Applicants, agents, owners, and delegations are also participating virtually. All persons wishing to speak to the items on the agenda were required to register prior to the meeting. Any comments, questions, or concerns received in written format have been provided to the members of the committee and will form part of the meeting record. Applicants, agents, and members of the public, please ensure your camera is off, your microphone is on mute throughout the meeting, and your name is correct on the Zoom screen. When called upon to speak, please remember to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera before speaking. Those presenting as delegations will have 10 minutes to speak to the application at hand, not past applications or associated applications. In the event a connection or service interruption occurs that affects quorum, which again is not applicable tonight, we have one member missing physically. And any members of the public who are present in council chambers tonight and wish to speak, please come to the podium and speak into the microphone. This meeting is held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss minor variance and consent applications and give anyone in attendance the opportunity to ask questions, provide comments related to the application. Notice of this meeting was provided by mail and signed posted by staff as required by the Planning Act. A copy of the meeting agenda, including the staff report, related materials, and comments received are available on the County of Brant website. Once the presentations, public hearing, and question period are complete for each item, the committee, if they deem it appropriate, will make a decision. Each committee decision is final following the 20-day appeal period. Please note the sign-in sheet for any members of the public attending here and add your name and address to that sign-in sheet. If you do not request a copy on that sheet, you will not be notified of the application result. The names of those individuals who speak on any item tonight will appear within the meeting minutes. Anyone wishing to receive further notice or a copy of the decision, please contact the County of Brant Planning Department. The order of delegation are as follows: the planning staff report recommendation, the applicant agent presentation, questions and discussion, public comments, further questions or clarification, and then the decision. I'll now take attendance for the committee members. Please indicate by stating present if you are in attendance. Mary Jane Brown, present. Harry Emmett.
Present.
John Vamus.
Present.
Jan Penag.
Present.
Bob Hamilton.
Present.
Rebecca Smith. Present. I think some of the names tags need to be moved around. And we'll note that Steve Schmidt is not present tonight. We'll now move to item 2, approval of the agenda. And do any members have items to be added to the agenda? None. May I request a mover and a seconder? Member Emmett? And Member Vamus to second. Can you please provide the resolution?
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Vamus that the agenda for the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment meeting of May the 18th, 2023 be approved.
Thank you. Members, please indicate if you're in favor of the motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Panag, Smith,
Yes.
Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The agenda for tonight's meeting has been approved. I'll now move on to item 3 on our agenda, declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any members who would like to declare a conflict of interest for any items on the agenda this evening? It appears there are none. And we will now move to item 4, adoption of the minutes from previous meetings for April 20th, 2023. Do committee members have any errors or omissions to note on those minutes? None. I'll now ask for a mover and seconder. Member Hamilton? Member Panag? Member Hamilton, can you provide the resolution, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Member Penang that the minutes of the County of Brant Committee of Adjustment meeting for April the 20th, 2023 be approved.
Thank you, Member Hamilton. All members, please indicate if you're in favor of the motion, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Panag, Member Smith,
Yes.
and Brown, yes. The minutes from the previous meeting has been adopted. I'll now introduce item 6.1 for application B7922LG and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Good evening, Committee of Adjustment and members of the public. This is a consent application for lands located at 137 Harley Road within the geographic township of Burford. The subject lands are located south of Harley Road, east of Middletown Line Road. They contain 1 existing dwelling and 2 accessory structures. The lot has a frontage of approximately 116.17 meters, a lot area of 13,152.28 square meters, and the subject lands are privately serviced by septic and well. The subject lands contain the Bennett Municipal Drain. The drain is currently undergoing a new report, and as a result, the drain will be relocated on the applicant's property to the westerly property line. At this time, the proposed design has not been finalized and will only be final upon the 3rd reading of the given bylaw. The applicants are proposing the creation of 1 new residential building lot within the hamlet village of Harley on private services. The retained lands contain the existing dwelling and accessory structures and will have an area of approximately 7,894 square meters and a frontage of 71.17 meters along Harley Road. The severed lands will have an area of 5,613 square meters and a frontage of 45.41 meters along Harley Road. The applicants were originally proposing to utilize the existing entrance for the severed parcel. The displayed images capture the existing conditions of the subject lands and surrounding area, including the existing driveway as well as a view from the east and west of the property. As a result of a technical review, it was noted there are insufficient site distances at the location of the existing entrance. It has been determined there are sufficient sight lines to the east that are available approximately 20 meters west of the proposed severance line. The sufficient sightlines area is highlighted in green on the attached drawing. The subject lands are designated as hamlet and villages within the County of Brant official plan and zoned as hamlet and villages with a site-specific provision within the zoning bylaw. In addition to the uses permitted within the residential and hamlet villages zone, the site-specific provision permits a cartridge and transport truck terminal. A condition of the consent application will be to rezone the subject lands to remove the site-specific provision, as well as to recognize the lot coverage area of existing accessory structures on the retained parcel. No public comments were received as part of the public circulation. I am recommending approval of the consent application, subject for the reasons outlined in my report. Therefore, it is my professional recommendation that the consent application B7922LG be approved subject to the attached conditions. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lauren, for the report. Does the committee have any questions or comments? Member Hamilton, please go ahead.
Through the chair to staff, I'm just looking on page 7 of the, you got proposed retained land and proposed severed land. Should they be switched at the very top of that page?
Through the chair to Member Hamilton, yes, that is correct.
Okay, so yeah, just to make sure when it's finalized, it's gone in proper. That's all I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions to staff? Is the agent, oh yes, Member Hamilton?
Yes, I've got a question follow-up, and I think Rebecca put it earlier today, and I just want clarification on the easement. Or for the, no, it's actually for the driveway. The current driveway as it sits right now, part of that is going to be severed off, right?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
So therefore, it has to be switched farther to the west or closer to the commercial building?
Through the chair, yes. So as it currently stands, the existing driveway doesn't have sight lines. So one of the conditions will be that there has to be a new driveway for the severed lands.
But not for the retained?
Not for the retained.
And then my question is, with this new drain going in on the westerly side, does that start to impact where the drain comes through?
Through the chair, so there is a 15-meter setback that is required from municipal drains. So depending on when the driveway is installed, that could affect it, yes.
And how wide is the full lot?
So for the proposed severed lands, that will be 45.41 meters.
Okay, so
Will be
you
the
go
frontage.
20 and you still got 15. I'm just saying there's not, you're pretty well the new laneway going in, or that is pretty narrow for what it's to be used for.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay from the severed line and then also from the building and the drain on the other side. Because the drain, if it comes over 5 from the thing, then all of a sudden you've got no place for a driveway.
Through the chair, that would be something that has to be taken into account, where the proposed drain location is going to be, and then also to make sure that it does maintain the safe sight lines.
Thank you.
Member Smith?
Maybe just following up through the chair. So this might be just a note for the applicant, just touching on the other committee members' comment. Just knowing if an easement is required, you have to come back to the committee to establish that easement. So just making that note.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Then is the agent for this applicant present? Can you please, do you have to add? You have information? Oh, yes, the video. Can you please provide your names for the record?
Sure. I'm Patricia Barrow.
And I'm Christopher G. Barrow.
Thank you. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. I have 2 points to address with regards to a couple of the conditions regarding the notes that Lauren presented. My notes are regarding page 9 of 23, the driveway sightlines. .
was on.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, I'm just quiet. It's regarding the driveway sightlines, and I do have a small video presentation. I will make my comments first before the video starts, though. I did also hand out a photo of the overhead from the GIC that shows some measurements on it that I think will definitely be points of reference. Adding a driveway to the east side of the property will create a greater safety risk due to the volume of traffic flow coming from the four-way stop in Harley. As you can see, the four-way stop in Harley actually has a distinct angle that blocks the sight line for people coming to the east. The new allowable driveway location is at the municipal drain location, which does not allow for the required setback from the current municipal drain. Placing it even further to the west would put it in the way of the proposed new location for the municipal drain. The new driveway location would require the removal of 3 trees, and also a hydro pole would have to be relocated. And I'm just going to make this comment now. As displayed in our photos and videos, vehicles can be seen approaching from the east with no difficulty seeing them, and there have never been any incidents since the installation of the current driveway since 1987. So if I can get you to start that video.
How wide is the current driveway?
The current driveway is, what did we say?
It's slightly over 100 feet wide.
100 feet wide. And I think you can see that displayed on the picture that I handed out to everyone as well.
This video was taken May 15, 2023 regarding the driveway at 137 Harley Road, Harley, Ontario. Approaching the existing entrance of the driveway, which has been there several years. Looking east, slight rise in the road. Looking east on Harley Road. Heading west, you'll see a four-way stop. We've been told that there's insufficient visibility at this point. Looking east, which we disagree with. We've been told that a new driveway is to start 20 meters from the new proposed property line, which would put it where the yellow pylon is, orange pylon is, which would also put it in front of a hydro pole, a guy wire, and too close to the existing drain, according to the setbacks of drainage. So not only that, as you can see, there would be a disruption to the ecosystem with regards to trees as well. The reality of the traffic coming from this four-way stop clearly indicates that putting a driveway there would create an additional new hazard with regards to leaving the driveway, given, again, the reality of the traffic at the four-way stop. As you can see, with the vehicle approaching, if I move to the center of the driveway of the proposed new lot, you can see there's more than ample visibility as a vehicle rises over that bluff in the road. Second video taken just shows vehicle visibility with regards to Harley Road versus from heading from east to west. And again, this driveway was
So that's just our reference for the driveway sightlines, and with these comments in mind, we respectfully request that the requirement for creating a new driveway be removed, with the main points being that the 15-meter setback from the drain will not be able to be maintained. Safety and additional driveway openings closer to the four-way stop in Harley would be created a safety issue during the bakery operating hours, especially when cars are parked in front of the building, and mature trees and a hydro pole would also need to be removed. And then my next comments were with regards to the tree inventory and tree protection plan. As displayed in the Severn sketch, which you all have a copy of there, where the location of dwelling, septic, and well are planned, no trees are to be affected.
Just to interrupt, does the photo they have show that it's a paved area where the proposed,
They can see it in the other picture
okay,
there.
okay. Yeah, the entire area to be developed is currently paved.
Yeah, where a dwelling is slated to go in our application, we had to choose a location for a dwelling, and it is actually on the complete paved area. There are no trees there. Also, as stated on page 6 of 9 in the Tree Protection Guidelines Manual for the County of Brant, an exception to the minimum distance of TPZ may be granted when the tree is flanked by a curb, sidewalk, or asphalt road. The trees next to the asphalt fall under the category of Thuja occidentalis, which are eastern white cedars, swamp cedars. Those are the only trees that are by the pavement. And the largest diameter these trees will ever grow in their lifetime is 30 centimeters. They are currently between 8 and 10 centimeters measurement, and that was taken at DBH, diameter breast height, and are planted 2 feet back from the edge of the asphalt. All the other trees behind those are in the working area of the municipal drain as displayed in the photo. Titled Future Location of Municipal Drain. This was in Lauren's presentation pictures that she took at our property. The future location of the municipal drain along the west property line. That was the title of the photo.
Yes, because the proposed new location of the drain is approximately 20 meters from where it was towards the west side of the property line.
Yes, so
there will be affected, but I think that's in Lauren's notes as well.
yeah, so the trees in the drain area will be affected, and it is stated in the comments that we would not have to get a tree report for the trees that will be affected by the drain. However, that can be kind of all-encompassing because you don't really know what's going to be affected by when they do the drain, because we don't know the size of equipment or anything that's coming in.
Now, as I understand it too, they're proposing the tree replant at no cost to the homeowner after the trees are taken out for the drain, which is probably a good thing because the trees that are currently on the property in that particular area are getting to their end of their lives.
They have holes in them, and they're breaking off during storms. And with these comments in mind, we respectfully request that the requirement for the tree inventory protection plan be waived for the new lot, with the main points being that the municipal drain construction will play a majority role in the existence of trees on this lot, and the remaining trees will not be affected by the construction of the dwelling due to its location as displayed on our severance sketch. You don't have to play the rest.
It's good. Thanks.
And that's all my comments. Did anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Do the committee members have any comments or questions to the applicant? Member Emma?
The proposed boundary between the two lots, is it going to be roughly the same as the present driveway?
Yes, it is.
The present driveway is 60 feet wide?
100 feet wide.
100 feet? Yeah. What's the requirement? This will be what's the requirements for a driveway width?
I don't even
No,
know.
he said to the staff members.
Could I ask staff to respond to that question?
For a residential lot with a width greater than 11 meters, the minimum driveway is 2.8 meters, and the maximum is 55% of the lot width, or 7.3 meters, whichever's lesser. So it'd be 2.8 to 7.3 meters.
Thank you. Does that answer?
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions to the applicant? Member Smith?
Through the chair to the applicant, so just in terms of the trees, so how I'm reading the comments is that you're only required to document the trees that might be in the disturbed area, so where the equipment's coming in for the home, not so much for the drain.
Right.
So are you implying that there really will be no trees within that disturbed area?
There will be one row of the cedars that will be impacted, possibly impacted. So if you look at the drawing, the building envelope is quite a ways away from that. Along the tree line, the only possible trees that could be impacted are a row of approximately, there'd be about 8 to 10 cedars there, and the rest of the trees are far, far off any possible, because it's all paved as it is. So there's pavement, and then there's approximately 20 feet of rock, and then there's cedars, approximately 8 to 10 cedars. They are the only trees that would be impacted. None of the other trees would possibly be impacted.
Okay, so the way I kind of read the condition is that really if there's no trees in the disturbed area, I don't think you're going to be required to fully go forward. So I'm hesitant to remove that condition, as I think that needs staff's final stamp to make sure that the actual disturbed area doesn't include any significant trees, I will say.
So I'm reading the comments here on page 10 of 23, and if no trees are proposed to be impacted, and again, we're just saying a possible impact of the cedars, but it says if no trees are proposed to be impacted, please have an arborist or qualified person state this in writing. Now, we have contacted an arborist, and they have come out to inspect the property, and they have, but we had to wait till the meeting tonight to get them to go ahead and do that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I understand you want to limit the costs associated with these things if they're redundant, but I think it's pretty typical for an arborist to say there's no disturbance. So,
right.
Just a general comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments? Member Vamus?
Yes, through the chair to the applicant, just for a point of clarification, so you're against the proposed new drain and creating the new
not
driveway?
No, we're not against the drain at
No,
all.
we've actually spoke to the drainage.
Just the new, creating the new driveway?
Correct.
Yes. So the drainage, we've had the drainage committee members out, and we've already determined the location of the new drain, and we're fine with it.
We're fine with it. We're
Fantastic.
fine with the fee.
We just want to
we're not
respect
worried.
the setback from there.
Because the setback was a major, and Lauren will attest to this, the setback was a major thing that was,
So
it was something that was always in the way. And so we had to do a lot of adjusting to meet that setback.
of the current drain,
the
which
current
is obsolete, broken,
but-
and not being serviced. Yeah.
But now they want us to put the driveway on top of the drain.
Right.
So it kind of doesn't make sense that the setback has to be followed for the drain when the drain is
Right there. pretty
right
much,
there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Like
just
it
one of
just-
the concerns, but the drain currently the drain runs more east of the property. So our building envelope in the application is respecting the setback of the current drain, which everybody here knows is obsolete, never to be serviced, and busted, basically. So we're respecting that currently, but the new proposed drain is 20 meters to the west of that. So that will actually create a larger area for us. So right now we're just looking at where the current drain is. The new drain will still impact a creation of a new driveway, if that makes sense. So even the new drain will still be a new driveway would be
A new
within
driveway
the
will
setback.
still be too close to the setback
Well, not to mention the hydro pole.
and the hydro pole. And
Sweet.
Member Smith, do you have a comment?
Through the chair, so I think this goes back to kind of my original comments about the driveway, and this is simply one member's opinion, but I think it's a little bit redundant to be asking for another driveway in light of the width of your driveway and it already being in place. So I'll reserve that for the final decision, but I'm just again making it clear you will need to get a proper easement if the committee does decide that you don't have to put that second driveway in, because it now will be a shared access.
Yes, absolutely,
yes.
right.
Any member Hamilton?
I guess I can, through the chair, to the applicants and the staff, what are the expectations of the current driveway and what will happen to it if the severance goes through? Is it to be left? Is it to be
Yes.
taken
Yes.
out?
No, it'll be left,
Left,
because
So the
it's,
driveway will be left,
absolutely.
but you're being requested to put an additional driveway in. Is that the understanding?
That's
Correct.
the long and short.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Vamus?
Through the chair to the applicant, so you're asking to have the condition of the tree inventory plan dropped?
Yes, based on the arborists or qualified person stating that in writing, no trees are being
Based on committee member Smith's, comments, that we would just have to get the arborist to comment that,
there
or
would be no
put
trees
something in
impacted.
writing that there would be no trees impacted. That's,
Okay, thank you.
And could I ask a question for you to be specific, because you do have the issues with the entrance locations, if necessary. So condition 4 only speaks to in general terms for the draft approved entrance location for the severed. And then condition 9 is the one that refers to the tree inventory. So then I would ask for input too from the committee members, given what the applicant has presented as their issues, and recognizing that there is a potential for a shared driveway with an easement. How would you like to modify the conditions to address the concerns here in the tree inventory as well as the entrance? Is there some preferred wording you would like to see? Member Smith?
Maybe I'll start with the driveway one and see how members want to take that. So I would suggest that we remove condition 4 and replace it with something along the lines of the applicants will be required to obtain a shared access easement through this committee or a subsequent application, as well as an access easement agreement that provides details regarding maintenance and whatnot.
Access easement for the drain?
Nope, for the driveway itself.
Just,
So an access easement and then accompanying agreement that will provide details in terms of who's maintaining that access, where garbage goes, those type of things, so there's no disputes in the future, would be my suggested wording,
And you could say if required.
if required. Sorry, will the if required be at the start of the whole condition?
I
that what
would
you're suggesting?
think so, because you are making it sound, at least my interpretation is that you would prefer there's no separate entrance at all for the severed parcel. So maybe are we going as far as dropping any separate entrance for the severed and just going with an easement on the retained portion through the existing driveway?
Yeah, so because the severance line is going straight down the driveway, it's gonna be a reciprocal easement, so you'll be able to access that side of the driveway, while they'll be able to access your side of the driveway. It's basically split right down the center. So I would suggest not if required.
And it's also been brought to my attention that if you are requiring an easement, you need to bring forward a different application for that easement. I believe you pointed it out too, and there would be a fee for it. So in terms of pulling everything together, it is possible, rather than we proceed with a decision tonight, since you know you will have to apply for the easement, we could defer it. You can file your application and we'll proceed after.
Would it be easier for us to split the driveway with some kind of concrete barrier?
Well, I think it's modifying the whole application then, because
Right.
when I was out there, isn't the lot line of the application for the severance, like currently
It's right
a
in the middle of
distance?
the driveway.
Oh, it is
Right
right
in the
still.
middle.
Right in the middle, yes. There are two orange markers there right now from the spray paint.
But you still have one entrance for two separate properties
Yes.
then. So
Correct.
my understanding, you still need an easement
Okay.
over it.
Yeah, I think what Trish was getting at is there an option to separate the driveway down the middle with something, as opposed to an easement? Just an she was.
Just to create one driveway and another
Yeah.
driveway.
I would say easement, because you can remove that the next day. That would be my suggestion
Okay.
as
Okay.
member.
Yeah.
So that's just my suggestion as a condition. The committee still has to
And
vote. but-
given histories I've seen with shared driveways, I think it would be best to have it all prepared properly.
Documented, yes.
Right, sure.
I understand what you mean.
So I think your question then was, should we proceed tonight, or should we do the easement in a separate a new application, or do the easement in a separate application? Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so
So we would defer the application on
This
this, so
applicant.
that you can come back with an easement application
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay.
since we're not familiar with the procedures with this, is it not, I don't want to say in our best interest, but is it not more practical for us to proceed this evening and then add the easement application for easement afterwards? And that's
You go.
a question. I have no idea, so.
So thank you through the chair. So if we were to defer the application, I'll present both scenarios.
Sure.
If we were to defer the application, you would be able to quote unquote reapply with the easement as well. And
Okay.
the committee would review that all as one
Okay.
application and make the decision at one time.
Okay.
In the other scenario, if you were to proceed tonight with the decision on the severance, there would be a condition of approval, whether it be for a separate driveway or for the easement.
Okay.
And if it was for the easement, you would have 2 years to clear conditions of approval for the severance application. So within those 2 years, you would need to come back to the committee with the application for easement, and we would go through a similar process. So public notices would be mailed and say,
So we're probably best, in long and short, we're probably best to just add it and do a new application.
through the chair, it's up to you.
It's up
You're
to
the
us,
applicant.
yes.
You would make the decision. The committee and staff can proceed either way.
Right. Okay.
You have a comment?
Through the chair to staff, can I ask the obvious question? Will they be charged another consent application if they defer it? So if they defer add the easement to this application, will they
That's what
pay
I
the
was
additional fee?
Through the chair, if they defer the application, no additional fee. But
Okay.
if we proceed with the conditional approval tonight, then they would have to pay the additional application fee.
So if it was me, I would
So defer.
defer the application.
That was our next question.
That was my next,
Thank you.
I was ready to put my hand up.
So we obviously we would want to defer the application, add the easement to the application, and then proceed from there.
Okay, so, yes. So can we have a member put forth a motion to defer? Member Smith, yes?
I'll make a motion to defer application B7922 to provide the applicants with the opportunity to submit for an easement, an access easement as well.
Thank you.
And actually, can I add, and also to have discussions about the trees?
Sure,
With
we
staff.
would hope that we would have the arborist comment on the trees by the time we come back. So it was just a real quick turnaround by the time they came out, so.
I do have one more quick question. So we come back for another meeting like this again. I think that, we had put in our application for the, what's it called, Lauren? The other application that we put in.
Through the chair, there is also a zoning bylaw amendment application. That application has not been circulated yet,
Okay,
just because it was waiting on approval for the Committee of Adjustment consent.
so that application is currently, there is this, it's kind of oddball
Zoning.
stipulation zoning on the property that allows for a trucking company to operate there. Once we sever, that's removed and can never be put back on.
Yes, that I
So
noticed
it's that-
in the report. So then we have the motion to defer.
Right.
Any other further comments before I ask for second? Member Famous?
Through the chair, just a comment, just my opinion to the committee is that if the existing driveway doesn't have safe sight lines and there's no choice but to create a new driveway. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Panag?
I have a question on the environment, Madam Chair. It says the applicant is advised that it's their responsibility to comply with all applicable laws such as Endangered Species Act and Migratory Birds Convention Act. Is it just advice or requirement?
Was that, you're not reading that right in a condition
Now, should that be a condition for a study?
for an environmental
the
impact study? Was that covered in,
9 of 23.
oh, planning? Okay. Would you like to add that in as a condition? Is that your thought?
If the drain is running water all the time, there should be some sort of study done.
The drain's owned by the county.
Your comments on that?
Can I comment to that? So if the drain, when they put in the new drain, they're gonna be disturbing all of that, everything there. They told us when they came out that they're gonna be tearing down a lot of trees.
It's a line of trees.
That when they go and put the new drain in. And the equipment they're gonna be using will be damaging a number of trees.
So they're gonna
If
take them out.
if the new drain is gonna be disturbing all that, surely building a house on pavement is not gonna disturb migratory birds or anything like that as much as the municipal drain is going to.
Yeah, I think the municipal drain, and when we had them out and spoke with them, we kind of walked the property, looked at the line of trees that's gonna be disturbed, and they said, this line of trees will have to go, and in reading the report, I see that, trees are gonna be replanted in their place. Our proposed building envelope is nowhere near the trees.
We're
They
not
will not be
gonna,
disrupted. There will be no chance of disrupting any ecosystem
or any migratory birds or any special
and in
species.
fact, where the drain's going is 20 meters further away from the proposed building.
And it is just noted that they are advised and their lot severance would be a separate issue from the drain. Does that satisfy your concern?
That's fine, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? So we still have the motion to defer on the floor. And I'll ask for a second, Member Emmett. And I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Panag,
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. the motion to defer this application in recognition that you will need to apply for an easement to a later meeting. And you will have to find out when it would be scheduled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now introduce the item 6.2 for application A823ES and turn it over to the staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Good evening, committee members and members of the public. This is a minor variance application for lands located at 467 Scenic Drive on behalf of the owners, John and Jenna Crummer, within the former township of South Dumfries. The subject lands are located north of Scenic Drive, east of McPherson Road, and west of Brant Road. The subject lands contain an existing single detached dwelling, and the subject lands are rectangular in shape with a lot area of 6,677 square meters and a frontage of 45 meters. The surrounding area consists of low-density residential land uses, and the subject lands are privately serviced by well and septic. The applicants are requesting a minor variance for relief from section 4.4, table 4.4.1 of the County of Brant zoning bylaw to permit an increased maximum structure height of 6.1 meters, whereas 5 meters is permitted, to facilitate the construction of a detached garage as an accessory structure to the existing single detached dwelling on site. The request is required because of the use of dormers in the design of the structure that will require the additional height, as well as to maximize area as storage accessory to the principal dwelling. While the design is consistent with existing development in the surrounding area, the property is also heavily treed along property lines, so visual impacts on height on surrounding land uses are to be mitigated. The subject lands are located within the regulation limit of the Grand River Conservation Authority, as they are adjacent to a wetland feature. GRCA has noted there are no concerns with the application, and the applicant has a valid GRCA permit. Conformity with other zoning requirements will be reviewed at the building permit stage. The subject lands are designated as rural residential in the County of Brant official plan. The subject lands are zoned rural residential within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. No public comments were received as part of this public circulation. I am recommending approval of the minor variance for the reasons outlined in my report, specifically that the request is minor in nature, is desirable development, and maintains the intent of the county official plan and zoning bylaw. Therefore, it is my professional recommendation that the minor variance application A823ES be approved, subject to the attached conditions. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Emily, for the presentation. Does the committee have any questions or comments on this application to staff? It appears there are none. So is the applicant or their agent present?
Through the chair, yes, John Crummer is online.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Crummer, do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, I'm really just here for questions. It's really just an accessory building with some overflow for storage up top. So other than that, I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. I'll ask the committee, do you have any questions or comments to the applicant? Member Emmett?
In the sketch for the building itself, it shows a garage door. Is that facing the line of trees on the property line?
No, it would be facing the front property. We're in line with the driveway.
Okay, the porch area is kind of facing into the yard then, in the backyard.
That's intended for, like, we're putting a pool over there, so it's kind of like a roof structure, just kind of for the pool area.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to the applicant, will you be running water out to this accessory building?
I will be. The plan is to have like a washroom just for the pool. That way people don't have to go into the house.
So therefore, there'll be a septic system go in as well?
So when we did, so the house there is only about a year old, and when it was designed, the septic system had allowed for a washroom in that, so it's already accounted for that in its design.
So then you will just tie into the current septic system from this accessory building?
So the septic is in the front property, on the side of the driveway. So we've got a stub coming out the side of the house. So we just tie it into that, which eventually would go into the septic system, but it's going through the house.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments, questions to the applicant or staff? Member Vamus?
Yes, through the chairwoman to the applicant, mentioned that the design, you're maybe 1 meter too high. Is there no way you could change the size of the dormers or change your designs and then you're in compliance?
I looked at it to get the height, you know, the minimum height. I'm only trying to get like 7 feet, 7'6" up there. So if I was to change the dormers, I just you'd be hitting your head up there. I tried, I looked in it, but just wasn't feasible.
Any further comments?
One more question. So, you plan on the heating? Is there going to be a fireplace in there, or are you going to have a kitchen in there?
There's no kitchen, no.
Okay, thank you.
Member Panag, do you have a question?
To the chair, how many square feet is the total accessory building?
Did you hear the question?
I did. It's whatever. Like, it doesn't go over the allowable area. I think it's 1,250 square feet. I think is the max. It's around that. I'm just a touch under the max area. So the height is the only thing I'm over.
Thank you.
Member Smith?
In terms of the area through the chair to maybe staff, is that the ground floor area of the structure or the gross floor area? So does that include both the garage floor and the upper floor as a total? Or just the footprint of the building?
I believe the zoning requirement is footprint. So that's what I'm following.
Okay, so it would be the footprint plus what's upstairs in actuality. Do you know what the gross floor area is of the upstairs portion?
Not offhand. It wouldn't be quite double it, but it'd probably be another 2/3 up there. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't believe that's a zoning requirement. So I'll be honest, I didn't look into it.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to the applicant, so this area upstairs, which is 2/3 of 1,250, is going to be probably 800 square feet. That's a fairly large storage area. Is the bathroom up there? Is the bathroom down below? And what would you be storing, because you've got 1,200 feet in the basement or on the floor?
We don't have any storage in the basement. The garage is like the garage in our house is full. So we've got on the main floor of the proposed accessory building would be my truck, the lawnmower, and eventually like a tractor to push snow. So so it's really just an overflow in terms of, could be pool equipment. We're gonna pool furniture outside, stuff like that will be going up there. To be honest, I don't know exactly what's going up there in terms of the storage, but it's I just don't want no regrets with it. I'd rather go bigger than smaller, and you never know.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? I believe there are none. Is the committee prepared to make a motion on this application? Member Panag, do you wish to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion at application A8-23-ES to be approved, subject to the conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Hamilton? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Famous?
No.
Member Hamilton? Member Panag?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The application A823-ES has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now introduce item 6.3 for application SV2-23-LG and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendation.
This is a sign variance application for lands located at 9 Adidasler Way within the geographic township of Brantford. The subject lands are located north of Bethel Road, east of Adidasler Way, and on the south side of Highway 403. The overall development on these lands was subject to site plan control in 2022. The lands are subject to a registered development agreement, and construction on the site is still underway. The surrounding area consists of industrial and agricultural land uses and the Highway 403 corridor to the north. The applicant is requesting relief from Section G, subsection G3 of the sign bylaw to permit a sign face area of 32.64 square meters, whereas a sign face area of 10 square meters is permitted within the industrial zone. The applicant is also requesting relief of Section H, subsection H1 of the sign bylaw to permit 2 ground signs along Adidasler Way, whereas 1 ground sign is permitted per frontage. The subject lands are designated employment site-specific policy area 16 within the County of Brant official plan and located within the urban settlement boundary of Paris. The subject lands are zoned as special exception, heavy industrial within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. No public comments were received as part of the public circulation. As a result of the upcoming sign bylaw review, staff is of the opinion that the request is in keeping with the overall intent of the sign bylaw. In keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, the request is minor in nature and will not negatively impact adjacent land uses. I am recommending approval of the sign variance application SV223LG. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lauren, for the presentation. Do any committee members have any questions to staff on this application? Member Smith?
Through the chair to staff, just a quick question, which I don't think would make a difference, but did this get circulated to MTO as it's on the 403?
Through the chair, they have had their permit issued from the MTO.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Member Panag?
Through the chair to the staff, is it lit sign?
Through the chair, I believe it is illuminated. I will just double check 1 second.
It is illuminated. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? So I believe the applicant or their agent or both are online and present. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Basically, the frontage.
Could I please have your name and could you come forward for, yes, please.
All right, my name is Randy Beatty. I'm the general manager of Rawlings Canada. So on the Adi Dazzler Way, because of the circular driveway, what we're trying to do is create separation and safety between the truck traffic and the car traffic. With the unique shape of the building and the curvature on the road, we're just trying to separate and keep a safe distance between the truck traffic. We receive a number of trucks and container shipments through the year and through the season, and we wanted to kind of separate that from staff and the truck traffic. So we wanted to have two signs on the frontage side and then the sign on the front of the building. So that was the main reason why we needed two signs on the back side.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Member Famous?
Through the chair, the applicant, so all of the signs are gonna be illuminated?
Correct. Oh,
Just the ground ones, or what about the ones
the
on
one
the
on the back is not illuminated, correct? Or the front is not illuminated?
What about the ones on the one on the building?
The one on the building is illuminated, the ones on the frontage are not illuminated.
Sorry,
So
the ground, yeah. The one on the building is illuminated, yes.
The two ground signs are not illuminated. Is there a way we can show this picture that's on the screen here?
This one?
No, the lot, sight lines of the lot.
This one?
That one there.
Oh, right.
So just you can see the curvature. So on the west side of the building, we want the employee traffic and the car traffic. On the right side or the east side, we want the truck traffic. Because of the curvature on the road, we want to just make sure that when the trucks are approaching our building, that it's easy to see where their entrance is. And they'll probably come in from the one side, and that's where we want to direct all the truck traffic from. So those two are not illuminated. The two stars on the front, the one on the highway facing is illuminated.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions to the applicant or agent or staff? And the agent from Brooks Signs, do you have anything to add to this?
Just a comment on the actual overall scale of the sign. There's the bylaw as a rule of 10 square meters or 25% of the wall. And even though we are proposing a sign bigger than the 10 square meters, it is still less than the 25% of the entire wall. So because it's such a large building, the sign really is only 19.8% of the entire wall, which is also a rule according to the bylaw. So it's just proportionate to the size of the building.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions to Brooks Signs then? No, it appears there are none. And are there any final comments or questions? And with that, I'll ask the committee for a motion. Member Hamilton? Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Member Panag? All in favor, starting with Member Emmett?
Yes.
Member Famous?
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Panag?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
And Brown? Yes. The motion to approve application SV 223LG has been approved and carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll now introduce item 6.4 for application A1023AW and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, through the chair. Now, application for minor variance has been received on behalf of
Lasani Homes Paris Limited from MHBC Planning for the lands municipally known as 139 Court Drive or Block 34 within the Riverview Highlands subdivision. As mentioned, the subject lands are municipally known as 139 Court Drive within the geographic township of Paris, specifically east of the Arlington Parkway and Rest Acres intersection. You can see an aerial image on the right, just identifying where the subject lands are. Minor variance has been received seeking relief from section 5.5B in regards to a minimum setback required for an underground parking structure. Specifically, the applicant is proposing a front, side, and rear yard setback of 0.5 meters or 1.6 feet, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 3 meters. Through the site plan application that has also been received, we will ensure that all other zoning provisions of the bylaw will be satisfied and addressed. This is the only provision of the zoning bylaw that they are seeking relief from. And then in regards to the official plan, the subject lands are designated as urban residential. And in regards to zoning, the subject lands are zoned as holding residential multiple high density with site-specific provision 8. The subject lands are located outside of the Grand River Conservation Authority. And then specifically in regards to zoning, as I mentioned, they are zoned with a holding and a site-specific provision. The site-specific provision was established through the 2014 subdivision application for the overall subdivision, which is known as Riverview Highlands. And the site-specific provisions limit the number of dwelling units on this block to 104. There's a front yard setback in addition to interior and rear yard setbacks. There is a site-specific provision for a parking structure with a maximum height, shall have a rear yard of 3 meters if it extends no greater than 1 meter above finished grade. That is for a parking structure if it was a surface level parking structure rather than underground. And they are permitted a maximum height of 12 stories. There is a holding provision on the subject land, so the applicant through a future application would be required to lift the holding only at the time of all zoning provisions in the site plan being satisfactory. In regards to my recommendation, I'm recommending that the minor variance be approved. One public comment was received, which was included in your package, just seeking clarification on the application and specifically their hydro line running through the landscaped area on the, I guess that's the east we'll call it, southeast, depending. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee members may have, and I do note that the agent for Lasani is present as well and can answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Do committee members have any comments or questions on this application? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, I'm looking at the diagram on page 15 of 17 or 109 of 143. And we're talking about, I'm looking at this here and it appears the residential unit is there. Where exactly or how far out is this parking lot or parking thing going to be to only need, a foot and a half or something from the lot line? I'm just looking at it and it seems to be, I'm trying to understand the diagram, I guess is really the question.
Yes, thank you to the chair. Great question. So the subject lands, it is an irregular shape, and just due to the irregular shape of the parcel and just some existing conditions on the site, the underground parking structure, if you look, you were looking at this image, correct? So that blue arrow that I have on there is pointing to the underground line of parking, and it's just a dashed line that's underneath the thicker blue dashed line.
Okay. All right. Okay. So where they drive in and where there appears to be some parking, that's all above this parking lot or this parking garage. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I have a question. All the parking is underground. There's none at street level?
Through the chair, there is surface parking in addition to underground parking.
So then, do you know how many spaces in total are being proposed?
Through the chair. Through the chair, I apologize. I do not have that in my notes, but I do know the agent is here and she'll be able to clarify that for you as well.
Okay, and then you made a comment, and I didn't quite catch it, that diagram that member Hamilton referred to, it does show there's 8 stories and 104 units. Did you say there's a potential it can go to 12 stories?
Through the chair, so the site-specific zoning on the property does permit a maximum of 12 stories, but the site-specific zoning also limits the number of dwellings to 104.
Oh, okay, so they would just be bigger units.
Through the chair, potentially, if that's how they organize
I was
the
just
building.
thinking that if it did go to 12, wouldn't you need a lot with more units? You would need more spaces. Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions to staff? Then it's been indicated the agent is present. Could you state your name and come forward, and you have information to add? Thank you. Any comments, questions to the agent on this? Member Hamilton?
I noticed the post office said there was nothing there, but I noticed there was in front of the telephone pole on the, I don't know, probably the east side, was a collection of mailboxes. Are they going to be moved, or is that? Yes. Pardon me? So, all the people using those boxes will be congregating at the entrance of going in and out of this, 8-story, 104 unit apartment. Yeah, I see that, and you will have your own. They'll have their own mailbox system in the apartment, so that's fine. But it would just seem strange that here's this one, and you're sticking this, and it looked to be on the east side where you'd be going in and out, and it would just be maybe a congestion problem, something maybe to check with the post office on. That's all. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I just had a quick question. You mentioned the 7 accessible parking spaces, but you implied that they haven't been planned for yet.
We have shown 7 accessible parking spaces in the site plan. We are refining the site plan application right now. Their location is moving a little bit, but they are still there. It's just the distribution of where they are at grade and underground. There's some accessible at grade and some in the underground section. So
okay. Thank you. Any further comments, questions, final ones to staff and or the agent? I believe there are none, so I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion on this application? Member Smith?
I'll make a motion to approve minor variance A1023AW, subject to the one noted condition, as the minor variance is consistent with 4 tests.
Thank you. Second, Member Emmett. All in favor, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes.
Member Bamus,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Panag, Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Brown, yes. The motion is carried. The application for A1023AW has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item 6.5 for application A923LG and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation.
This is a minor variance application for lands located at 206 Baptist Church Road in the geographic township of Onondaga. The subject lands are located north of Baptist Church Road, east of Pauline Johnson Road, and west of Mulligan Road. The subject lands, municipally known as 206 Baptist Church Road, are currently functioning as a cattle farm with one existing dwelling and agricultural related buildings. The existing lot is rectangular in shape with an area of 99.51 acres and a frontage of 406.89 meters. The surrounding area consists of agricultural land uses. The lands are privately serviced by septic and well. The applicant is requesting relief from section 4.4, table 4.4.1 of the County of Brant zoning bylaw to permit an increased height of 9.11 meters where 7 meters is required, to facilitate the construction of an accessory structure related to the residential use. The applicant is proposing an increase to the permitted height for aesthetic purposes for the accessory structure to be compatible with the future single detached dwelling. All other requirements of the zoning bylaw are being met. The subject lands are designated as agriculture and natural heritage within the County of Brant official plan and zoned as agricultural and natural heritage within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. No comments were received as part of the public circulation. I am recommending approval of the minor variance application for the reasons outlined in my report. It is my professional recommendation that the minor variance application A923LG be approved. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lauren. Do committee members have any comments or questions on this? Member Smith?
Sorry, this through the chair to staff, and you might not be able to answer this question, so offhand. Are additional residential units permitted on a farm? And if so, what is the maximum size? Just so I have it in my mind when we're receiving applications like this.
Through the chair, yes. Additional residential units are permitted on agricultural lands. It is limited to 1 if it's on private servicing though. And it is limited to the requirements of the zoning bylaw. So it would be 450 square meters, I believe, is the maximum area that can be dedicated to the additional residential unit.
And there's no maximum size for it?
It would have to meet the requirements of table 4.4.1, which lists out the accessory structure.
Okay, just trying to gauge. Thank you.
Member Hamilton, you have a question?
Yes, through the chair to staff, One is a follow-up to Member Smith's question. Is this an ARU or is this an accessory building?
Through the chair, so the proposal is for an accessory structure. I know the applicant is here, but to my knowledge, it's for like storage related to the future dwelling as well as the associated agricultural use.
Okay, and I've got to change directions and go. It says here, it's on page 7 of 15 of the application. We will require a full tree inventory and protection plan for the subjected areas. It's a 100-acre farm. They have to do an inventory of the trees on every fence row and not on 100 acres. I know it states in there what's impacted, but they're saying initially they have to do the inventory of the complete farm area. Is that true?
Through the chair, so staff noted when writing the report that there is quite a bit of agricultural land, and based on where they're planning to place it, there doesn't necessarily have to be any trees that are actually going to be impacted. So that wasn't actually required as a condition of consent for that reason.
Okay, no, it was what the Parks and Forestry portion of it stated they had to do this, and I didn't see it as a condition, but I'm just following up. It just seems a little extreme to ask anybody that wants anything that owns, a property that large to do a complete tree inventory. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I just have a question. I noticed on the diagram it gives the estimated placement on page 13 of 15 of the accessory building. That's correct? That is? Okay. So this is for I'm assuming the old house will be torn down and the new house will go on that footprint?
Through the chair, so on the site plan that's displayed, so that's the proposed location of the accessory building. The intent is for the future dwelling to be demolished and then reconstructed. That would be on the other side of the property still, though, on the other side of the driveway, sorry.
Other side of the which?
Of the driveway. So on the side where the current dwelling currently is, on the site
So
plan?
where the current dwelling is would be the location of the new house?
To my knowledge, the agent is here, so they will be able to provide further clarification.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions to staff? Then I would ask the agent is present, if you could identify yourself and please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Udo Zapp, and I'm representing the owner, Marty Paddock. So I can answer your questions. I don't really have much to add, but I'm sure I can answer your questions.
Thank you. Then maybe you could address the question I have. Will the new home be located in the footprint of the existing one?
Yes, that's correct. There'll probably be a little shifting of the angle of the property, of the house on the property, but it's going in exactly the same location as the current house is, and it will be adjacent to the ancillary building that's being created now this year. So the applications for building will be going at the same time, which is demolition, building the ancillary building, and building the house. The house will not be built until next year.
Okay. Then my question becomes, if you look at that diagram on page 13, why locate the accessory building there? It seems a fair distance, and even when I went out and looked at it, it seems quite a distance from the existing home. Did you consider putting it in behind that home, or is there a reason it's located there?
Yeah, there are a couple of reasons. So one of them is there is already a barn type structure that has existed for a long period of time. I don't know the vintage of it, but it's quite old, and it's located in behind the residence. The idea of putting the ancillary building next to the house is the reason why the ancillary building is designed the way it is. It mimics the house, but doesn't match it exactly. So the attempt has been made to make the ancillary building, as you can probably see, it's quite a handsome structure, and it does have an affinity to the house that's going to be built. So some of the features of the house, the dormer shapes, the roof pitches, the height, etc., are made to match the house. And the utility of the land has to do a little bit with, of course, so what's the authority called that controls the greenbelt, the stream?
GRCA?
Yes, so there are limitations on what you can structurally put on this property, and this particular location is ideal. So it's on a relatively flat part of the property. It's at the part that is not affected by the greenbelt, let's say, and it's a desire of the owner that that's how the buildings should look when he approaches it.
Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to the applicant. Just looking at that, page 13, yeah, it looks like you've got 4 large garage doors on the front and 3 on the back. How high is that, and why do we need that many things for an accessory building?
So the idea of the garage doors at the front particularly is that's a particularly high area. It's 12 feet high. And the idea there is to be able to store larger equipment in that area.
What type of equipment?
Well, what they would use on the farm. I mean, you've got large tractors, you've got machines that move earth, and so there's a lot of machinery currently sitting outside on the property, which is somewhat unsightly. And as my client is planning on retiring to the property, it's a family-owned farm for several generations, and he is selling his home in Port Credit, or in Stony Creek, and he is moving up to the farm, and he's building all of this for his retirement. So the equipment that's there is going to be stored inside that building.
It is one hell of a fancy building to store farm equipment, and I am from Onondaga Township, and I would have to say this would be one of the premier ones for storage of equipment. That's just a comment. The second comment I have is how high is the second floor?
It's a standard 8 foot. It's no higher than you would find in any home.
So
It's
12
foot
feet
is
is
the
20,
ground floor.
but we want 30, so you got 10 feet of attic?
Yes, the attic is quite sizable, and the reason for that is that from an aesthetic point of view, and we've worked on this, it's been very difficult to make it match. So the home itself is more of a kind of an L shape. And so when you look at the front of the home, the pitch is high, but the house is not deep. And it's the design of that house to have a high-pitched roof. When you move over to the ancillary building is not linear. It's not a long building. It's a square building. And the problem with the square building when you have a gable-end roof is that the pitch has to go high just to meet the other pitch from the back of the roof. If you chopped it or if you changed the pitch of that roof, it would ruin the aesthetics of that building instantly, and it's not something that you can cover up or disguise with design elements, etc. It is an essential part of aligning that building with the new home that's to be built there.
Looking at this here and the dormers on the front and the back, and you've got at least a minimum of 8 feet, will there be the potential in the future for somebody to live in this area?
The explanation given to me by staff has been that the ability to do that is regulated by, I think you mentioned something about an ARU. So the ARU, if it was ever created, has its own limitations in that environment. So there's nothing that would be unusual. The layout of that area, the demising of that area has not been finalized by the owner at this stage. Its potential, definitely.
Thank you. I guess the other thing is, it would have been maybe nice to see what the potential house was looking looked like.
I can actually help you with that. I don't
Versus,
know,
you know,
it
to
was
before
submitted.
we accept an accessory building for farm equipment. No, this is the new house. Whenever it's existing. Good.
Do you have a question?
Just a general comment, maybe through the applicant. I mean, you could turn around to get a permit for a barn. It could be twice the height and nobody would say anything because it's permitted. So I understand that, but just reiterating, ARUs are permitted on agricultural properties. If the owner chooses to create an ARU, I just want to make sure that the proper permits are applied for.
Most definitely, I can assure you that there will be no effort made on the part of any development on this property that will not meet the requirements. That's number one. And it was actually a surprise to us that there is a limitation on the height of any ancillary building on a 100-acre farm. So at first, when we designed this, all the effort was made in the design of it so that it would be very suitable. And I agree with you that it's a very fancy building. And when Marty first asked me to design it and build it, I was kind of surprised because this is not a barn. This is a twin to a house, and that's exactly what his intent is. So he's not holding back on spending the money to make this property look quite handsome. But we did have limitations, and it was just not possible for us to bring that roof pitch down and not ruin the design of the building. So that's why we had to ask for that extra bit of height. And it's odd that the ancillary building actually is only a little bit higher than what would be allowed on the house. So had we reversed the need for a pitch on the house as opposed to the ancillary building, that would have been easy. In this case, it's actually the reverse.
Yeah, and I think the zoning bylaw is designed so the accessory building is quite smaller and secondary to the home, but when you're getting into a home of that size, obviously the accessory building gets a little bit bigger beyond those provisions. So, thank you.
Member Hamilton?
Yeah, through the chair to the applicant. Will there be water put into this building?
I would presume there is. There wasn't any discussion of it at the initial stages, but I would have to presume that there has to be some kind of facility for washing hands. It's going to be used for repairing machinery as well. So yes, it would have water. There's no question about that. And it also will have, if it gets bathrooms, and I'm assuming that there will be bathrooms in there as well, then we will be required to put another septic bed in, and we have agreed with the township already to do that. In other words, we will not be piggybacking on the new septic system that we have to build for the house, that they would require us to put a new septic system in for the ancillary building as well, and we would do that. I can also, if I may, answer a question about the trees. The specific location of the ancillary building was picked because there are no trees that will have to be removed or demolished. But we do have a couple of trees that we've identified as being, it's going to be necessary to take them down. We'll talk to, obviously, the people in building and planning about that when down the road. But every tree that will be taken down will be replaced by more trees, obviously, which is also Mr. Paddock's intention.
Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, we're this is strictly a minor variance, but when the building permit goes through, will there an archaeological study be needed in order to build it through the building permit process?
Through the chair, I don't believe the subject lands are within an archaeological area. However, I can confirm this information right now.
All right, no, I was just curious because of our indigenous community and the Grand River and the 6 miles and all that. It would behoove me to think that they may want to have something done on that. So that, but it would be through the building permit section, not.
So through the chair as well, the application was circulated to Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations as well as Six Nations. Any application that disturbs the soil, that's a requirement. I don't believe it's within an archaeological area because that would have actually been a condition of the application that an archaeological assessment be completed because that's done through the Planning Act applications, not through the building permit.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Vamus?
Yes, through the chair to the applicant, I had a question earlier, but it half got answered. So at the front, there's 4 garage doors, and at the back, there's 3 garage doors?
Correct.
Okay, because at the back, it looks more like windows at the back, but they're garage doors.
They're garage doors, yes.
So it's kind of like a drive-through.
Yes, you can drive through them, yes.
Right.
They're just roll-up doors. They're just not as fancy as the ones up at the front.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they're windows or garage doors. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Member Panag?
Through the chair to the applicant, what's the depth of the garage?
If I remember correctly, it's about, I'm sorry, I think of in feet more than I do in meters. If I remember correctly, it's about 56 feet deep. It's almost as deep as it is wide.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I only had a question on following Member Vamus's. The front elevation shows the 4 doors, the back is the 3 doors. So is the intent that those garage doors are being used for the farm equipment, or is there access at the opposite ends?
They're accessed from the opposite end, so the garages do not touch each other from front to back.
Okay, so you said it was for, I'm just trying to picture it. So those garage doors on the front and back, they don't look to be very high?
The ones at the front are 10 feet high, the ones at the back are 9 feet high.
But generally, if you're looking at very large storage barns and that and equipment, so he won't be making use of really high overhead doors that would be at the opposite ends. I mean, you've got the front, the back, and then the ends. You're not putting large overhead doors
No,
there?
no. The idea of this particular storage, I don't know what equipment Mr. Paddock has in mind. I have seen some of the equipment on the property, and there's a number of pieces that would definitely fit into that garage, including trucks.
Okay.
There will be trucks parked in there. There are 3 trucks there currently, and all 3 of those would, I presume, be put into the garages. Now, the garage, there will be garages in the house, but they will be for transportation vehicles for the family, not for the farm.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Believe there are none, so I would ask the committee for a motion on this application.
Thank you.
Member Emmett? And I'll just only interject that there are no actual separate conditions. Is that? There were none, okay, just on that. And your reasoning for it's minor? Okay. Could I have a second? Member Pinag, all in favor, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
No.
Member Hamilton,
No.
Member Pinag,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Brown, yes. The motion has carried, the application has been approved. Thank you. And moving to item 7 on our agenda, the next meeting is scheduled to be June 15th, 2023, and again, it will be a hybrid meeting. So with item 8, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Member Emmett? And is there a second? Oh, Member Vamus? Could you provide your motion, Member Emmett?
Moved by myself and second by Member Vamus that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Please note if you are all in favor by raising your hand. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Oh, we have,